I asked the staff to help me find out the school of that child, and then hurriedly drove there with Chenin. The information shows that the child under my household registration is named Zhou Xiaoqi, 10 years old this year, and is currently in the 4th grade at Fengchao Primary School. All the way, Chenin's face was tense. I sighed and asked him, "Don't you believe me?" He shook his head and explained, "I believe you. I just think this is too strange and it should not be so easy to solve." 10 minutes later, we arrived at the gate of Zhou Xiaoqi's school. Only then did I find that it was only 2 kilometers away from the house I bought 5 years ago. We found Zhou Xiaoqi's class, and the moment the head teacher called him out, I was even more certain that this must be a misunderstanding. Because I was sure that I had never seen this child in front of me before and definitely didn't know him. The child was also very confused. I walked up to him and asked, "Do you know me?" He shook his head and replied, "No." Surely no useful information could be obtained from him. So I roughly told the head teacher about the situation. He told me that Zhou Xiaoqi transferred from another school 2 years ago, and he didn't know much else. I asked him for the contact information of Zhou Xiaoqi's parents, and soon the person on the other end answered my call. But when I introduced myself, there was a beep and the call was hung up directly. This reaction made me have to be suspicious. So Chenin and I decided to wait here for Zhou Xiaoqi to finish school and then quietly follow him home to have a look. School ended at 5 o'clock. Zhou Xiaoqi carried his school bag and walked slowly towards home alone. After following for a while, I found that the place he was going to was in the apartment building opposite my house. It was at most 500 meters away from the house I bought. The moment Zhou Xiaoqi knocked on the door, Chenin immediately rushed forward and pushed against the door. A woman about in her 30s stood at the door, pulled the door frame and shouted at us, "Who are you? What do you want?" I walked closer to have a look and really didn't recognize her. I said, "My name is Yu Miao." She immediately changed her expression but still pretended to be calm. She stuck her neck out and said to me, "I don't know." But her performance obviously showed that she was lying. "You don't know? Then do you know that your son is under my household registration?" She immediately panicked and her eyes dodged. "What are you talking nonsense? If you keep doing this, I will call the police." "Fine, call the police right now." I'm just about to go to the police station to ask for an explanation. I grabbed Zhou Xiaoqi's school bag with one hand. "Also, from your performance today, you should know the whole story of this matter, don't you think it's strange? Why is your son under the name of a complete stranger like me? I'm an unmarried girl in my 20s. Suddenly there is a 10-year-old child under my name. You have to give me a reasonable explanation." She had a tough attitude. How should I know? Maybe the staff who handled the business made a mistake. "Why do you come to us? Go ask them." Crazy. Then she took advantage of my inattention and pulled Zhou Xiaoqi in, and the door slammed shut. Since she was so uncooperative, I could only choose to ask the police for help. Chenin and I went downstairs and headed straight for the nearby police station. 2. The police quickly helped me find out the information. Zhou Xiaoqi was transferred to my household registration 2 years ago. But I had no idea about this at all. A slightly older policeman looked at me and then slowly said, "Are you sure you really have no relation to him at all?" I nodded. "Of course we have no relation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to the police station to report the case. He thought for a while and said to me, then there is one possibility. This child is under your household registration probably in order to take up the school district quota of your house. Is your house just in the Fengchao school district? Is it Fengchao Primary School? I suddenly saw the light. I was almost choked to death by a mouthful of air. At the beginning, my mother insisted that I buy this house just so that my children could study in a good primary school in the future. Now they have occupied my school district. What shall we do with our children in the future? He tapped on the table with his hand and then said, that should be the case. Their family must have used some means to put the child under your household registration. Then let the child use the school district of your house to study in Fengchao Primary School. Didn't you say that he was just transferred to that primary school 2 years ago? He entered your household registration also exactly 2 years ago. The time also matches. Finally, the police still advised me to negotiate with Zhou Xiaoqi's parents first. If the negotiation fails, report the case again and they will handle it. They also gave me the information of Zhou Xiaoqi's parents. The woman just now was his mother, named Lin Hui. The information showed that she was currently a full-time housewife. His father was the business manager of a local listed company, named Zhou Yan. Seeing the name Zhou Yan, I suddenly had a little impression. 3 years ago, I rented out my house. The tenant who signed the contract with me at that time seemed to be named Zhou Yan. At the beginning, because it was all handed over to the agency, I didn't go to the site at that time and just signed the contract with him online. I immediately dug out the rental contract at that time. After comparison, it was indeed him. All these were suddenly connected. If I'm not wrong, it should be that 3 years ago I rented out my house, and then they somehow got the child registered in my household to study in the school of the school district. I stood downstairs and sent a message to Lin Hui. I already know everything. I give you 10 minutes to come downstairs. Let's talk face to face. If you don't cooperate, then we'll meet at the police station. Sure enough, Lin Hui was not as tough as before. 10 minutes later, she slunk downstairs. We sat in the coffee shop downstairs. I handed her the print out of my household registration. Zhou Xiaoqi is under my household registration in order to study in Fengchao Primary School, right? She evaded my eyes and didn't say a word. I continued, the only relation between my family and yours was that you rented my house for a year 3 years ago. Why on earth did you occupy my school district? She said, I don't know either. I don't know how Xiaoqi got on your household registration either. We just went to the school to register and he was enrolled. I didn't know there was such a thing either. Obviously, she was determined not to admit it. I smiled and then leaned back on the chair. It doesn't matter if you don't admit it now. I have plenty of ways to make you admit it. I'm just giving you a chance now because the child is young. But since you don't want this chance, don't blame me. This is a society ruled by law. There must be loopholes in what you have done. If because of you, your child's future is affected, then don't blame me. 3. You meow, don't have much of anything, but I do have a lot of time. Anyway, I have all the time in the world to waste with you. Remember to spend more money on hiring a better lawyer. After saying that, I was about to get up and leave. Just as I reached the door, she suddenly stood up and called me back. Miss you. Just tell me, what are your requirements? I turned around and slowly sat down, feeling a bit amused. What? So quick to compromise? Well, let me tell you first. I have a total of 3 requests. First, no matter what method you use, within 1 month, remove Zhou Xiaoqi from my household registration. Second, immediately transfer him to another school and leave Fengchao Primary School. Finally, return my school district quota intact. If it affects my future children's schooling, that won't do. After hearing my conditions, her face turned pale all of a sudden. She said urgently, "How is that possible? Do you know how much effort we've put in to get him into that primary school smoothly? Now you're asking us to leave. Isn't that all in vain? Miss you can't be so malicious." I was almost laughed out of anger by her. Am I malicious? So I walked up to her. Lin Hui? Are you out of your mind? First, you used my school district quota without my knowledge. That's stealing. No matter how much effort you've made, you stole something from someone else. Returning it now is only natural. How is that me being malicious? I was willing to come here today and have a proper talk with you to give you a chance. I think you don't want this chance now. Well, I have plenty of other ways to solve this. Making Xiaoqi transfer to another school is absolutely impossible. Just tell me, how much money do you want? I was amused at once. Still want to send me away with money? As far as I know, only Zhou Yan in their family has a job, and they haven't bought a house in this city yet. So their financial situation is not so good either. I shook my head. I don't want money. My requirements are the 3 I told you before. I'll give you 1 month. If it's not solved after 1 month, then I'll come and solve it for you. Then, without waiting for her to speak, I pushed the door open and walked out first. The next night, I received a message from Lin Hui. Miss you, I'll meet your requirements, but I need 3 months. It takes time to contact other schools for the child's transfer. It can't be done so quickly. I thought about it. Anyway, it doesn't matter waiting a while longer, so I agreed to her. But I also warned her not to play any tricks in front of me. 3 months later, I went to check and found that Zhou Xiaoqi was still under my household registration. This family was playing me for a fool. So after work, I rushed straight to their house and banged on the door. This time, the door opened very quickly. The person who opened the door was a man. If there were no accidents, it should be Zhou Yan. I came straight to the point. Your family has been playing me for a fool? We agreed on 3 months. Why is Zhou Xiaoqi still under my household registration today? Zhou Yan shrugged indifferently. If you have the guts, go and sue us. We just won't transfer it. We're waiting for you to sue. You took advantage of my wife's ignorance last time. Do you think I don't know? For things that go to court, as long as we don't cooperate, what if we delay you for 3, 5, or 6 years? My son will graduate from primary school in 2 years. If you want to sue, just go ahead. We also have plenty of time. He had such a rascally look on his face that I was so angry that I almost wanted to hit him. At this time, Lin Hui also came out. When she saw me, she looked much more confident than before. Miss you, my husband wasn't here last time. I was almost tricked by what you said to me. This time I'm not stupid. If you really want to sue, just go ahead. We'll keep you company. This time we won't stop you at all. I said angrily, do you really think I can't do anything to you? Zhou Yan replied with a grin, for you people, isn't the so-called solution just going to the court or the police station? I've already told you. I don't care. If you want to sue, just sue. You can also let that policeman come and arrest me. We definitely won't transfer this school. How should I put it? Since your school district has been used, you can only consider yourself unlucky. If you want to get it back from us, I advise you to give up this idea as soon as possible. Then he closed the door immediately. Meeting such a rascal, I'm really unlucky. I went home and thought about it all night. I really couldn't swallow this anger. The next day, I asked for a leave from the company and crouched outside Fengchao Primary School early in the afternoon. School ended at 5 o'clock. From a distance, I saw Zhou Xiaoqi walking out unsteadily. Then he made several turns and entered an internet cafe. I went in and directly dragged him out, and then took him to my car. I don't know if this child was stupid or just frightened. He was in a daze and followed me into the car like this, without saying a word. This really helped me a great deal. Otherwise, I would look like a human trafficker. In the car, I told him that I would take him to eat KFC first. His eyes immediately lit up. But soon he asked me listlessly, Auntie, you won't tell my mother that I went to the internet cafe, will you? My mother will beat me to death if she knows I went to the internet cafe. How could I? As long as you cooperate with me well today, I will never tell your mother. I replied while driving. He immediately became energetic. What do I need to cooperate with you? Simple. You will stay at my home these days. I will tell your parents. Just relax. After taking Zhou Xiaoqi to eat KFC, it was almost 8 o'clock when we got home. At 10 o'clock, I was sitting on the sofa watching TV when my mobile phone rang on time. I picked it up and saw that it was indeed Lin Hui. I deliberately left her waiting for a while before answering. As soon as the phone was connected, there came a howling sound from the other side, "You meow. What do you want to do to my son? I tell you. What you are doing is kidnapping. It's a crime. I will definitely let the police arrest you." I sighed before answering her, "Sister Lin, it's okay if you're ignorant of the law. I'll give you a free legal popularization today. Zhou Xiaoqi is a child under my household registration. How can it be considered kidnapping if I take him away? Even if you go to the police can't do anything. By the way, this child is having good food and a good sleep here. You can rest assured. I'm officially notifying you today that as long as he is under my household registration for 1 day, I don't plan to let him meet you. Also, I thought about it carefully today and also got along with Xiaoqi this afternoon. I found that I quite like him. Then you also know that the cost of raising a child is quite high these days, and having a child is also troublesome. It's quite nice for me to pick up a 10-year-old son for free. So, I'm going to sue in court tomorrow and claim custody of Zhou Xiaoqi from you. Look, he is under my household registration. It's only natural for me to ask for his custody rights, right? Just wait for the court summons. 5. After listening to my words, Lin Hui's screaming came from the receiver, "You meow, you lunatic. Xiaoqi is my child. What custody rights are you asking for? You can't take him away from me. If you want a son so much, can't you give birth to one yourself? He's my son. I wasn't interested in listening to her going crazy here, so I hung up the phone resolutely. The next day, as I had promised, I went to the court to sue for the custody of Zhou Xiaoqi. The court summons quickly reached their couple. I didn't answer any of their harassing calls these days. The two of them had been as impatient as ants on a hot pan for a long time. After receiving my summons, they finally broke down. The one who contacted me was still the policeman who helped me find their information that day. When I arrived at the police station, the two of them were already there. I put down my bag and sat down with amusement, and then joked, "Oh, have you decided to walk right into the trap?" Zhou Yin glanced at me, his eyes full of hatred. Lin Hui looked as if she had aged 10 years. Her face was pale and her hair was messy. As soon as she saw me enter the door, she began to cry. Then she knelt directly in front of me. "Miss you, please give my Xiaoqi back to me. I'm begging you. I really can't live without him. He is my life." She was crying with snot and tears all over her face. I moved my stool back a little to keep a distance from her. I said, "Sister Lin, it's not my fault. I gave you a chance before, but what did you say? You told me to accept my bad luck. Xiaoqi is in the same household register as me. The court will also support my claim for his custody. Besides, think on the bright side. Maybe it's better for the child to be with me than with you. After all, my financial situation is much better than yours, right?" As soon as I said this, Zhou Yin kicked over the stool, pointed at me and cursed, "Psycho." I leaned on the chair with my arms folded indifferently and watched him lose his temper. "You meow, tell me, what on earth do you want?" "I've already given you the solutions," I said slowly. "If you want me to stop now, then do the 3 things you promised me before. Whenever you do them, you can see Zhou Xiaoqi. If you want to see him earlier, you have to hurry up on your own. By the way, I'm kind enough to tell you that Zhou Xiaoqi misses you very much. He was still talking to me yesterday about when he could see his mother." Hearing my words, Lin Hui, who had just managed to control her emotions, broke down again. Then she grabbed Zhou Yan's hand and shouted, "Husband, quickly promise her. I can't not see my son. I can't wait a single day." Zhou Yan was impatient with her shaking, threw her hand away, then stared at me for a long time before saying, "I promise you. But don't lay a finger on my son." I stood up satisfied and promised him, "Don't worry. I'm not a child trafficker. He has good food and drinks. But if you want to see him soon, you have to work harder." 6. This time they were quite efficient. In less than just 1 week, the name Zhou Xiaoqi had been removed from my household registration. Zhou Yan called me, and as soon as he started speaking, he asked when he could see his son. "How come you think you can negotiate terms with me just because you've managed to do one thing?" he said, suppressing his anger. "I've already arranged for his transfer to another school for him, and also sorted out the school district for you." I nodded with satisfaction and praised, "Your ability to get things done is really quite strong, but it doesn't mean it's okay just because you say so, right?" "I have to check. If it is true, you can see the child tomorrow." I don't know what methods they used, but my school district was indeed made available again. Then the head teacher informed me that Shou Xiaoqi had already gone through the transfer procedures. In the evening, I sent Shou Xiaoqi to the police station. The two of them received the news quickly and rushed over. As soon as they met, the three of them hugged and started crying. Then Lin Hui carefully examined Shou Xiaoqi all over and asked with concern, "Son, has that woman abused you these days?" I rolled my eyes as I stood aside. Looking at Shou Xiaoqi's face, which was obviously a bit fatter, where on earth did she think I had abused him? Shou Xiaoqi shook his head and said softly, "No, Auntie has been very nice to me. She bought me whatever I wanted to eat." Zhou Yan immediately slapped him on the head and scolded, "Eat, eat, eat. All you know is to eat. Are you a pig? Someone just bribed you with food. Why are you so stupid?" He hid behind Lin Hui aggrievedly, with teary eyes. I stepped forward and said, "Since the matter has been resolved, then we will have no more to do with each other from now on." Then I turned aroundly and walked out of the gate. Finally, all this has been resolved, and my mood suddenly became a lot lighter. I had previously made an appointment with Chenin that after I sorted out this matter, we would go get the marriage certificate again. As soon as I walked out the door at this time, I called him, told him this good news, and we made an appointment to get the marriage certificate again next Monday. I had planned to have a good rest over the weekend. But who knew that on Saturday morning, Zhou Yan called me again. I held back my grumpiness from getting up and answered the call. His voice on the other end completely changed from his usual style, and he said in an obsequious tone as he apologized to me, "Miss you, after this time, we have also deeply realized our mistakes. Our family is also preparing to go back to our hometown next week. Well, out of animosity grows friendship. It's also a kind of fate between us. Xiaoqi came back and also told us that you were very nice to him during this time. So we want to invite you to dinner tonight, just to formally apologize to you for your care of Xiaoqi these days and for all those previous incidents." Probably afraid that I would refuse, before I could answer, he quickly reported the name of a restaurant and then hung up the phone. I looked and saw that I indeed had nothing to do in the evening, so I decided to accept the invitation. When I arrived at 7 o'clock, I found that only Zhou Yan was sitting in the restaurant. I put down my bag and asked him, "Where is Sister Lin? Why haven't Sister Lin and Xiaoqi come?" He glanced at me. "She took Xiaoqi out to buy things. They'll be back soon. Just sit down first." Then he pulled out the chair beside him for me to sit. I felt a bit strange, but couldn't put my finger on it. As soon as I sat down, suddenly one of his hands reached out and placed it on my hand, and the other hand grabbed my shoulder and tried to pull me towards him. 7. I was just about to scream and jump away when a resounding slap hit me in the face. It was Lin Hui. I don't know when she came in. She was standing in front of me full of anger. "You meow, how can you be so disgusting? You not only want to steal my son, but also my husband. You vixen. You have no shame. You seduce other people's husbands. You're so cheap and disgusting." I was just about to refute that I hadn't. Who knew that Zhou Yan suddenly apologized to her, "Wife, I'm sorry. It was this woman who seduced me. She clearly knew that I have a family, a wife and a child, but still asked me to have dinner here alone." Then he turned to me and gave me a lecture. "You meow, I really didn't expect you to be so shameless. You're young. There are so many good things you can do. Why do you have to seduce other people's husbands? And you clearly have a boyfriend. Why are you so fickle? Yu Hui continued, I remember your boyfriend. Looking at you like this, I must tell your boyfriend. I tell you, I took pictures of you two hugging just now. I'll post them on the internet later. Let your boyfriend know what kind of person you are, and let netizens all over the country know how you steal other people's husbands. Their actions immediately attracted the attention of the people around. Everyone in the restaurant gathered around at once. Several people pointed at me and discussed in what they thought was a low voice, saying that I was young and shameless to be a mistress and so on. That day, I didn't even know how I got home. I just remember that not long after, my phone suddenly had a lot more messages. My friend sent me a video and asked me, meow meow, is this you? I clicked on it and it was exactly the video of Lin Hui scolding me in the restaurant. So I checked on Weibo and found that my name was on the hot search right now. Clicking on it was that video. Countless people left messages on my Weibo scolding me for being shameless and being a mistress. Some people also dug out my address and workplace. Even Chen En's Weibo had a large number of netizens pouring in and leaving all kinds of green pictures for him. Some people also dug out the whole story of Zhou Xiaoqi's school transfer. Some netizens left messages saying that I must have been in cahoots with Zhou Yan long ago, so I gave the school district to his son, and now that we've fallen out, that's why this has happened. All kinds of abuse, slander and malicious speculation flooded in. I was stunned for a while. Soon, Chen En's call also came. As soon as I answered it, he asked me anxiously where I was. I said I was at home. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief. He said he had seen the video. I asked him, do you believe it? He replied firmly, how could I? You don't have such bad taste. And it's obvious that this is a trap they set for you. You've made them suffer such a big loss. How could they swallow this? They will definitely find a way to make you pay. As soon as Chinen said this, I suddenly remembered. When we were in the restaurant, when the people around gathered, Lin Hui raised her head triumphantly towards me and then winked at Zhou Yan. So these two had planned this trap long ago and were waiting for me to jump into it. All of this was their design. I was wondering why their attitudes suddenly changed 180 degrees. So they were waiting for me here. 8. Because there are so many opinions on the internet, which have seriously affected my normal life and work. Chinen helped me ask for leave at the company and then told me not to go out recently. He would help me solve all these problems. At noon, I was lying at home, watching TV and eating potato chips when Lin Hui called me. How does it feel to be misunderstood like you meow? I said angrily, to vent your anger, you are really willing to pay a high price. You can even sacrifice your own husband. Aren't you afraid that he will really have an affair? Well, there's no other way. It's all forced by you. Besides, I know my own husband. My husband is not that kind of person at all. My family is very happy. I also know that for a girl, the most important thing is her reputation. Now your reputation is ruined. As far as I know, you can't go to class normally at present, and you can't go out either. The internet is full of scolding for you. Do you know what you look like now? Just like a rat crossing the street that everyone shouts at. I rolled my eyes and asked her, are you done? If there's nothing more to say, I'll hang up. It's all nonsense and makes my ears hurt. She laughed arrogantly on the other end of the line. You meow, you're in such a situation, yet you're still so boastful? I'm calling you today to give you a chance. As long as you promise to give your house to my family, I will help you clarify everything. I almost doubted that I had misheard. After being stunned for 2 seconds, I asked her, "What did you say?" "Let me give you the house." "Do you mean transfer the ownership to you for free?" "Yes. This is your only chance. You should know that the public opinion on the internet is terrifying now. Now your image is like a rat crossing the street. If you continue like this, you won't be able to find a job or even a partner in the future. It's a very good deal for you to exchange a house." I was so angry that I wanted to swear. "Lin Hui, do you know that what you are saying now is blackmail?" She didn't care and said, "It's up to you. If you think it's blackmail, then it is. But for me, it's just a suggestion. It depends on whether you will take this suggestion or not. If you do, maybe your image will return to normal tomorrow. It all depends on your choice, Miss Yu. I'll give you 3 days to think about it. Reply to me 3 days later. You know the public opinion can't wait for a few days now." Then she hung up the phone. I couldn't help but snort coldly in my heart. This person is really greedy. I ignored her and went straight back to my room to sleep. If I really agreed to her, I would be really stupid. In the evening, Chenin came back very late. As soon as he came back, he rushed excitedly into the room, found me and woke me up. "Do you know what I discovered today?" "What?" I looked at him blankly. "I went to Fengchao Primary School this afternoon." "What did you go there for?" I asked him, because as far as I knew, Zhou Xiaoqi no longer studied there. I followed Zhou Yan there. I immediately became energetic and sat up. "Zhou Yan? What did he go there for?" That's the problem. I found that Zhou Yan was having an affair. His affair partner is the mother of Zhou Xiaoqi's classmate. Then he threw out 2 photos. One was a photo of Zhou Yan and that woman walking into the hotel beside the school with their arms around each other's waists. The other was a photo of the 2 kissing in the underground parking lot. I was so shocked by the photos in front of me that I couldn't say a word. I followed Zhou Yan to their company this afternoon. But at 3 o'clock, I saw him start driving to Fengchao Primary School. I thought it was a bit strange at that time. Then at about 3:30, a woman got into his car about 2 kilometers away from the school, and then the 2 went to the hotel to get a room. They didn't separate until nearly 5 o'clock. Then the woman picked up her child at the school gate and went home, and Zhou Yan turned around and went back to the company. 9. That is to say, it's very likely that they too are having an affair under the pretext of picking up their children. In this case, they should have been together for some time. I analyzed. Sure. Zhou Xiaoqi has transferred to another school for such a long time. The way they two are, it seems that they have been in a relationship for a long time already. Moreover, I also made some inquiries. That woman is the mother of Sun Yuyu, who is Zhou Xiaoqi's classmate. Both of them have families and children, and they are both having affairs. On the 3rd day, Lin Hui called me on time. "How is it? Has Yu Miao made up her mind?" I replied to her while putting on my coat. "She has made up her mind, but I will decide the place." Come alone at 3:30 p.m. She laughed and said, "Don't worry. My husband doesn't have time to come to you." I couldn't help sneering in my heart. Yes, your husband is looking for another woman. The place I chose was the Yuntian Hotel beside Fengchao Primary School. I sat in the lobby waiting for Lin Hui. After 10 minutes, she finally arrived late. Seeing that I was not as haggard as she had imagined, she was a little surprised. "It's no wonder that you are young. Even facing such a big matter, you don't look very tired. If I were you, I should have lost a lot of hair by now. How could I still be in the mood to put on makeup?" She sat opposite me. This was a good seat that I had specially reserved for her. Sitting in that seat, she could be the first to see the way that couple would come in arm later. "Well, have you made up your mind? I have brought the agreement today. If you think there is no problem, sign it here." As she said this, she took out a stack of documents from her bag and handed them to me. I casually spread them out and flipped through them. "Haha, you are really so bold in your thinking. The market value of my house should be no less than 5 million yuan now, and you actually want me to give it to you for free. What can we do? I think it's still a very good deal to exchange this 5 million yuan for your reputation." "Oh, then I'd like to ask you how you are going to clarify?" "Just rest assured. I will surely restore your good reputation at that time. Didn't you say that what you framed me for was the truth?" "Lin Hui, today I will first straighten out the whole matter with you. First of all, we got to know each other because you occupied the school district of my house for no reason, right? It's very normal for me to ask you to remove your child's name from my household register, right? I just asked you to return my school district quota and remove it from my household register, and you poured such a large amount of dirty water on me. Now you are still using this dirty water to blackmail me and make me give my house to you for free. Just listen to it yourself. Do you think this is appropriate?" "Why? So you mean you don't agree? Why did you ask me to come here today? Just to tell me this nonsense?" Suddenly I laughed. "Don't you really think that I will agree? If I agreed, I would be really stupid. Coming here today is of course not just to tell you these things. Of course, I also prepared a big surprise for you." 10. I took out the 2 photos taken by Chinan from my bag and pushed them in front of her. She looked a little confused, but still reached out to pick them up and have a look. Then her face gradually turned pale. "What? Familiar? As far as I know, this man seems to be your husband Zhou Yan. And this woman, you should also know her, right? I don't need to introduce more, do I?" Holding the photos, her hands began to tremble uncontrollably. A few words came out of her mouth. "Where did you get these photos?" I smiled. "There's no need to tell you where the photos came from, but it's enough that you can see the people in the photos clearly." She stood up abruptly and threw the photos on the ground excitedly. "These are photoshopped. They are photoshopped. You must have found someone to deceive me. My husband is so good to me. How could he cheat? How could he be with other women? No. No." I spread my hands helplessly. "Think whatever you like. It's okay if you want to deceive yourself like this." Just then, Chinan sent me a message. "Zhou Yan and that woman have entered the hotel." I took back my mobile phone and then looked at her. "Mrs. Zhou, if you don't believe it, you can sit here for one more minute." Maybe you will see your husband come in with his arm around another woman with your own eyes soon. Her eyes widened all of a sudden. Then, less than a minute later, Zhou Yan entered the hotel with his arm around that woman, talking and laughing, and went straight to the front desk. Lin Hui screamed like a mad woman and rushed forward directly. She threw herself at that woman. The two on the other side didn't react in time, and the woman was pushed down to the ground by her. Lin Hui sat on her, pulling her hair, cursing and crying at the same time. Only then did Zhou Yan react. He immediately wanted to step forward to pull her away, but Lin Hui grabbed the vase beside her and threw it at him directly. His head was instantly hit and he fainted with a bloody bruise. The woman was completely pinned down on the ground by Lin Hui and beaten, without any ability to fight back. Her hair was pulled into a mess, and her face was also scratched with red marks. "You fucking slut, bitch. You seduced my husband." Gradually, people around also gathered around. I took advantage of the chaos and slipped out, and then kindly called 110 and 120 for them. After returning, I gave the recording of my chat with Lin Hui to Chenin, and then Chenin helped me post it on Weibo. The public opinion of netizens immediately changed. Many netizens sympathized with me, saying how unlucky I was to meet such a person. Before long, the video of Lin Hui beating the mistress in the hotel in the afternoon was also uploaded to the internet. Only then did everyone find out that Zhou Yan had really cheated. But this time, not many people sympathized with Lin Hui anymore, saying that she had brought it upon herself. Later, it was heard that Zhou Yan was hit by that vase and it affected his cranial nerves. He was still in the hospital for rescue. Lin Hui was taken away by the police for investigation because of intentional injury. Zhou Xiaoqi's grandparents heard the news and quickly rushed over from their hometown. But since their son and daughter-in-law had done such a shameful thing, they didn't dare to make too much fuss either. Lin Hui was released after staying in the police station for a week, and then was forced by Zhou Xiaoqi's grandparents to go to the hospital to take care of Zhou Yan, who was still unconscious. Because she didn't have time to take care of Zhou Xiaoqi anymore, Zhou Xiaoqi temporarily went back to the countryside with his grandparents.